everybody. Welcome to MMAjunkie Radio's pre-show. It is the show that starts before the show.
Yeah.
Today is March 19th, 2018. I am Goes. That guy over there, we call him Mustard Dan. The guy in New Jersey, we call him Blue-Headed Danny.
I fucking hate mustard.
And George will be here soon. If you don't want to call him Mustard Dan, you can call him Vegas Raikyon.
Yeah. Whoa, wait a minute. Whoa. I don't know which insinuation I like better. The fact that I like mustard or that. Well,
together with Danny's haircut and Dan Tom, they form Vegas Mustard Raikyon.
Yeah.
mustard.
Voltron.
Oh.
There's George. George's vegetable lasagna today. He's wearing his vegetable lasagna shirt. If you don't know what that means, watch the episode of Seinfeld with vegetable lasagna. You will know who George is today.
I don't know, some guy named Vegetable Lasagna.
Yeah. So that's always entertaining. On today's show, are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
Calvin Kattar.
Nothing.
All right.
Iaquinta.
Okay. Sounds good.
Pretty solid.
Danny gasses after the pre-show. Huh? Like he gets out all his laughing, all everything he wants to say on the show, all gets taken out. It all burns through all his energy, and then during the show, he's just like, ah.
I just don't like to interrupt during the show. I feel like that's when you guys are on the clock. All right, we're
We
coming
want
up.
you
Stand
to
by.
do that.
Yeah, Danny.
Okay.
We
Stand
want you to do it.
This is your captain speaking. We are making our descent into Las Vegas McCarran Airport. On behalf of our crew, we'd like to thank you for flying MMAjunkie Airlines. Now please fasten your seatbelts and put your tray tables in your upright position because the descent is going to be a little bit bumpy.
Alright, Junkie Nation, it's time to roll, baby, on MMAjunkie Radio with Gorgeous George and Gold. This is what we do and why we do it, baby. All night long, we rollin'! Yeah!
The MMAjunkie Radio revolution is upon us.
Can you dig it?
There's no escape. No escape. Through the vast frontier of cyberspace and through a sea of stars in outer space.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
We've solidified our combat communication stranglehold.
We are controlling transmission.
With the use of MMAjunkie Radio and SiriusXM satellite radio technology. MMAjunkie Radio. Commence transmission. Live from MMAjunkie Radio HQ in the fight capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. Here are your hosts, Gorgeous George and Goes.
From the fight capital of the world, inside the beautiful Mandalay Bay Race and Sportsbook, you are listening to the MMAjunkie Radio Show, the only show that matters. I'm your host, Gorgeous George. With me, as always, is the devious and dastardly Goes, our ace co-host. To my left, the fight analyst, Dan Tom. Back east, Danny Auto producing. What's up?
And Rob.
Rob, that's right. A gift from my buddy Paul White. This is,
He was just here, by the way.
was he?
Yeah, him and Frank.
And they left?
I haven't been formally introduced to Rob.
This is Rob.
Rob from Calgary.
Beaver Rob.
Oh, okay.
It's
That's Beaver Rob. All right. I
Yeah.
Yeah.
can finally put a face to the name.
Yeah, that was a
They
gift
look
from...
exactly alike.
All right.
We also got that Canada scarf,
Yeah.
which I don't know how long it'll make it there, because once we were scolded for draping something. We might have just put clothes, right?
Yeah, it was
I
like
think
a
we hung
shirt.
up a
but it was
shirt.
with a hanger.
Yeah, it's in a closet.
And I got scolded, too. I was the guy that got scolded.
So if something happens, are we going to blame Canada?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. All right.
We will. All right, it's good to be back after the 2 days off plus the weekend. So we haven't talked to you in close to a week. And since then, we had UFC Fight Night 127, along with March Madness and the madness that accompanies this world we live in. So, lots to talk about, as well as just how was your time off? I know how Goes was. How about you, Dan? Did you have a couple nice days off?
I was old man Dan. I got some errands done. Got some errands done on the extended weekend, and I pretty much slept the whole weekend, guys. I woke up early, nice and early. I got to sleep early on Friday. Woke up early Saturday morning for the fights, which I'm sure we'll touch on later. But after that, literally an hour and a half after the fights, I passed out for about like 4 or 5 hour, little intervals until the next day. Woke up, got a bunch of stuff done on Sunday before noon, and was in bed early by last night again. Got a bunch of sleep. I think I'm just making up for all the sleep I lose on these like stretches. So when we actually do have an event-free week, my body is just like catch up, even though you never really catch up. But that's what I did.
How about you?
I didn't have like any full days off, but St. Patrick's Day was Saturday, so I drank Friday night and Saturday night with roommates and friends. So
we're at home, or did you go out?
Friday night was home. Saturday night we went out.
See,
because we have a bar in our house. So
yeah, okay.
You have a bar in your house?
Yeah, I'll take pictures.
Oh, okay. I know what you're talking about. Forget.
No, like we have a real.
I'm thinking of like how they have like where he works. They got like a Chipotle and a Whole Foods. I'm thinking more something like that.
Oh yeah, well the place where I do my TV show from, that's in a bar, so we drink every Wednesday night too. So
that's cool. All right,
yeah.
That is one nice thing about the Big Apple. Like I realized when I was there is, again, you're not really using your car much, so you can't have throw back your pints and Subway at home, walk home, taxi home, Uber home, whatever. Play it safe. You just got to be able to answer the bell the next day. But yeah, it is a fun city. And another cool thing was over there we were doing the show at 1 p.m. so you really had time to wake up and settle in before starting the show.
Yeah,
not that 10 a.m. isn't. 10 a.m. is pretty late, honestly, for most people. But still, those 3 hours were nice.
Well, we don't roll out of bed at 9 and get here by 10 like a normal job. Like you're already doing stuff at 6, 7 a.m.
Boy, I cut my drinking down, so I can't be thinking too nostalgically. But it was nice living in New York for that reason that George said, because you don't realize, like, oh, wait, I'm not responsible to get behind a wheel anywhere, and there's all these, wine shops to bars that are open. Hell, even I worked at a grocery store, Whole Foods in the Chelsea Market. When I get off late, let's say I was bringing back some beers amongst my groceries to bring home that night after I was off, I could grab one of those beers from my backpack and crack it open. If I was still illegal, but as long as I kept it on the low and you just enjoy yourself, and it was kind of a different, different
here
thing
in Vegas, you can open drink on the strip.
Yeah,
and people
are
buying
glass, right?
Right, and people they live on the strip now. They have all these big buildings, and so some people I actually see them do it. They're not blatant about it, but they do it, and they can be. Yes, no glass, but it can be an open container.
That's right.
Or a giant guitar.
Kikartana.
Hey, I Dante makes fun of me because I say guitar. He says guitar. But I think I say guitar because of the Honky Tonk Man, right?
I don't know.
Or you watch Desperado too much, Antonio Banderas.
I hate that.
My guitar. Yeah, why?
Because that's the one where him and Salma Hayek, who they just met,
just
walk away from an explosion like it's nothing. Like they just do it every weekend.
Oh, the classic. Yeah, that's a classic.
Yeah.
El Mariachi, by the way. Go watch the original.
I was about 50 yards away from C4 exploding.
Yeah.
And there was a wall in front of it.
And we knew it was coming.
We still were like ducking and going, oh my God.
Yeah, and I'll probably do it again because you still felt that blast. And they have way bigger explosions in movies, and the actors just walk away like it's nothing.
Mm-hmm. All I know is that there was no witnesses apparently for any of those crimes in that movie. All that explosions and murders in the street.
It's one of the
no witnesses. No
We're
witness
talking about
reports.
Mexico, though. I mean, now in reality to what goes on in Mexico, that was a fucking picnic they had in that movie. So, St. Patrick's Day, I hope everybody made it home safe. No troubles for anybody. I was actually on the lookout. I was safe and driving home, but I didn't see too many cars pulled over. I didn't even see any traffic stops, or what do they call them? Alcohol
checkpoints. Yeah.
Checkpoints. Yeah, I didn't see any of those, so I didn't hear about anything. I didn't see anything, so I think all my fam and my friends are good to go. So let's talk a little bit about UFC Fight Night 127, or as the UFC likes to call it, UFC London. Alexander Volkov defeated Fabricio Verdum. I guess technically it was an upset because we had an underdog defeating a favorite. But more than anything, we have a former champion here in Fabricio Verdum who has been at the top for a while. And by that I mean, a top 3 fighter, top 5, even if you're not the most generous in rating him. And Alexander Volkov is a guy who at one time just really couldn't pick up, any steam in Bellator. And when he came over, it was like, well, too bad it's not Minikoff. And here the guy's 4-0 now in the UFC, and he's beating Fabricio Verdum. Mm-hmm. So good on him, and all I can say is, look, Verdum won the first 2 rounds. I think most people are saying that, right?
Yep.
So it's not like, hey, he didn't. He showed the win, but that gas tank deteriorated so quickly, and then of course the eye doesn't look good and the finish doesn't look good. It makes you think, that he didn't show up. And here's why I believe he didn't show up is I've seen Fabricio Verdum many times, and he didn't look as good in shape as he has in previous fights. So you start to wonder, did he take Volkov serious? Is he getting older? Did Volkov just maybe take it to him? And because his gas tank was deteriorating as well. Did he have an injury? We don't know. All we know is the results, and the results are one guy took out the other, and now he's in a good position to ask for a world title shot. I don't think he's next, but I think he's in a good position.
I think it's a little bit of everything of what you said. Minus, I don't know if he had any injuries or anything like that, but we've seen that happen to Fabricio before. I think we all got transported back to Strikeforce and now start over and fight, right?
Yeah.
And just
especially rounds 3 and 4.
Somebody who went through that, if they went back and watched that, they'd probably say, I never want to see myself look like that ever again. So there's a little bit of perhaps he took it lightly, but a lot of props need to go to Alexander because I thought he did an amazing job sticking to his game plan. And he even went into Fabricio's world a few times where he probably shouldn't have, didn't need to, but he did.
Got his back taken, defended that.
Defended it well.
Yeah.
So you got to give him his props too. And now you're right. Depending on who he fights, he could be next.
Could be.
I guess I'm along the lines with you guys in the sense of it's not that, could he have come in better shape? Did that look suspect? Did his effort look suspect? And that makes you lead to what were his intentions? Was he taking him serious? I get all that talk, but the thing is, kind of like Ghost said, this has been the story of Verdum's career. This isn't anything new. And it's hard to say because, again, I like to think he was taking it serious. That was part of my reason for picking him because in interviews, he was pretty honest about saying, I only have 2 or 3 fights left. I want that title back. And just it was so clear, and it looked like it was kind of dangerous fights, which ultimately ended up being that he was taking, whether it was Volkov or Tabura, or even just the last minute against Walt Harris. Just one shot from that guy, and you could be done, right? But I think he was picking these guys off because he really wanted to get back to the title. He had a strategy. He was very serious. Now, how serious did he play himself? His body might imply differently because if you go back, not even just looking at his earlier career, because that's a little unfair, right? But even just looking at how he looked against Cain Velasquez in 2015, just 2 or 3 years ago. Granted, that was an extensive training camp that doubled along another Mexico City training camp where he had against Hunt, so he was in his peak shape. But still, you can see differences. So it's hard to say age because he's already gotten old. I think we've seen that. I think the peak was at Travis Brown, the first fight, where he was doing takedowns, and only till recently have we seen Fabricio do takedowns again. Because since that fight, we haven't seen him do any takedowns, and you saw him do it there. Like George said, he was up 2 rounds. Not only that, if you guys looked at Volkov in the corner, Volkov looked dejected after that second round. He looked like, man, this is like I'm back in sparring session with this guy again. And I thought it was done, but we saw Fabricio start to fade, and he paid for not being able to finish him on the ground. He paid for that because as soon as the cardio fell apart, we saw the balance fall apart. He started flapping to his back. So it's kind of a little of everything to unpack there, but I agree. And we probably shouldn't take too much credit away from Volkov because for my money, I think he's a top 5 guy. Maybe number 5, but I think he's a top 5 guy.
Yeah, and so he wins.
Okay.
We got him as a possible candidate, depending on who's healthy, who isn't, and who else performs here in the next months. There's always that Cain factor, and I know it pisses people off because we were having that argument with who the other day? Sam? I think Sam Walgen was like, Cain, where's he been? I'm like, well, it's been 18 months, and there's talk about him making a return, but when he returns, the one thing he hasn't done these past 8 months is lose. He hasn't fought, but he also hasn't lost, and a lot of these other guys are taking those losses. That kind of make you fall down. Overeem lost to Ngannou lost to Stipe. Verdum just lost to Volkov. So some new guys are being thrust upward, and a couple guys are taking small steps downward. Cain's just kind of chilling. His last fight was a win. It has been 18 months, but at least that stock is just kind of still hovering. So that's why I always throw that name out there. You just never know what will happen with him. And, of course, Derek Lewis, after having 6 wins, he took a loss to Hunt. Then he came back and recently got a win. So now he can boast, hey, I'm coming off a win, and I've won 7 of my past 8. So he's going to be a factor as well going forward. But what happens with Verdum? Was that his last run? Or if he has these 2 or 3 fights left, can he have one more?
It's tough. I always say this, for guys trying to get fights or this or that, and in today's climate, it almost takes an extra effort, not just with the mic skills, but even being prepared to do those last-minute swoop-ins. You'll hear I ask fighters, like, hey, do you ever think about staying ready for this fight? You have a marquee fight in your division, and one guy drops out. I think, honestly, that is Verdum's best bet right now, to stay ready, because he doesn't have to cut weight as a heavyweight. He's a veteran fighter, so there's leeway as far as jumping into a bout, right? It's risky as hell, but hell, he already paid the piper just last Saturday, so it's not like he's kind of debt free. That's the one silver lining, is he's debt free now. He can roll those dice. So I say Verdum, anytime there's a marquee fight, whether it's a contender or the title fight, I think Verdum needs to be ready.
Yeah, he needs to get one more fight, but then he also needs to hope that Cain Velasquez starts winning again. If he can get that title back, then he can always say,
I beat
we
that
could
guy.
do this again, and I think that's his only way back through.
And hope that the
Otherwise,
champion
it's
at the
gonna take more
time
than that.
wants to avenge the loss. A lot of times they want that, and so that's where you play in. But
true.
Verdum is a character, and he's done and said silly things in the past, gotten in his fair share of trouble. But at the same time, I think he's been an entertaining fighter who's put it out there. So you take all that, put it in the washing machine, and out comes a fighter that I really enjoy covering as a member of the media. Sans a couple questionable things, happening out there in Chechnya maybe, but whatever. Here he is, and I don't know. Dust yourself out, Fabricio, and come back strong. Only you know why you really lost. It could be that Volkov was the better man. I believe that's just what it was. But at the same time, like I said, after watching this guy fight, I just didn't think he was ready to lose to Volkov yet. And he did. And he got finished. So there's no question about it. We can all just move on from here.
What do you do with Volkov?
Good question. All right. So Stipe and Cormier fight on the first week of July. I don't know the exact date. And I think it's UFC 226. If Cormier wins, and let's say Cain is proclaimed as a healthy guy, I think Cormier just says, I won it, I accomplished something, and now I either retire or go back to 205. I just don't think he's going to fight Cain. Unless somehow the UFC gives them so much money that they do it as just friends who want to share in a boatload of money. But I don't think it's going to happen. If Stipe wins, I see Ngannou picking a fight with Lewis. And I don't think Ngannou can win and get a fight against Stipe, because we just saw it within the year. He'd probably have to take a second fight, because he got finished and looked awful after the second round. You want him to really short things up. Cardio, ground game. But see, if Lewis could beat Ngannou, if they match them up, then I think you could see Lewis. Mm-hmm. If Lewis were to lose to Ngannou, then I think you could see maybe Volkov. If Cain comes back healthy and Cormier loses, then I think you for sure could see Stipe versus Cain. So there's at least 3 possibilities out there. The Overeems, Hunts, Ngannou's of the world, right away I can think to myself and say, those guys need like two more wins. God bless Arlovsky, he's won 2, and I know he's got another fight that he just signed up for, but that would make it 3, but he also lost 5 before that. You see what I'm saying? Barnett is on suspension, I think, till this December. Rothwell's on suspension till the following February. Junior DeSantis is on suspension till a year from upcoming August. And who else am I missing? Roy and Frank went to Bellator.
Right.
So I feel like possibly.
Oh, and Curtis Blades. Hold on. We got to pencil him in.
That's where I'm going to say. Curtis Blades and Overeem?
Yeah.
What if we fought the winner of that?
Who?
Volkov. While all of this plays out, you fought the winner of that.
When do they fight again?
I think that makes the most sense.
Chicago?
June 9th. Okay. So you let everything else play out, and he fights the winner of this, and by then...
Overeem might say, but I beat him already.
Maybe, but Overeem doesn't really have much to say right now.
Yeah, that's the problem is we think there's a lot of heavyweights, but there really isn't, because a lot of them have fought each other. So, but, okay, I apologize. I left out Blades. If Blades wins, hell, he may be ahead of Lewis. You know what I mean?
It's a
His
fun
loss
division, but it's like you're right. It's weird because there's so many. The way we look at March Madness, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it all shapes up. The heavyweight division doesn't shape up like that because all it takes is one win here, and it completely changes the tournament.
If Curtis Blades can steamroll Overeem, I think he gets a title shot. Now that I think about it, it's on a pay-per-view. He's in Chicago. But let me be honest with you. His interview that he had with us the other day didn't leave me feeling like, wow, that's a champion the UFC needs to get behind. He just kind of went through the motions. I signed my contract. Yeah, whoever, I don't know. And of course, I'm not saying fabricate all this bullshit and do a pro wrestling promo, but just give me a little bit. How about a spark?
How about a taste?
I don't need like a big old brush fire or nothing, but just something. Go back and listen to the interview, and he was answering the questions, but I felt like I've seen more out of him either in post-fight interviews or in another setting. It's almost like he had just woken up or got bad news or, put his puppy down. I don't know. He just wasn't into it as much. And I would have thought we would have gotten a happier Curtis Blades coming out of, I just signed the contract. They gave me what I want. I'm fighting in Chicago. I should be next for Stipe Miocic, and I didn't get that. So if I didn't get that, maybe the suits over there off of Rafael Rivera Way and Tenaya Drive or whatever that is.
It's not as fun as saying.
It's not as fun as Sahara. Yeah, Sahara is a popular street. Tenaya, yeah. Those people over there in the UFC PI, when they get their take, their fill of Curtis Blades, are they feeling the same way?
Yeah, it's tough. I will say it's too hard to kind of decide where they're going to go. Kind of like Go said, the bracket's kind of too crafty. But I will tell you this. I will say who shouldn't face each other. Taking the Kane wild card, I think you got to keep Kane away from both Blades and Volkov. I think that's what you got to keep away because you have Kane. He's the only guy, the old guard who's left, who has the clout, who has the wins, who has the matchup we haven't seen with Stipe the champion. And he's also legitimate, tough matchups for the young blood in the division who can be legitimate contenders who also haven't had a chance at Stipe or a lot of these guys, which is Volkov and Blades. So Kane would be, even though people would be upset with it, let's be honest, technically he's still coming off a win like George reminded us, and also
good win,
and let's remind ourselves that the current age we're in, I could see Kane coming in for an immediate title shot for Stipe just because that matchup is just, we've been talking about it so dang long. Or you put Kane with one of the more sexier names because you guys both made the point that Ngannou we just saw for a title shot, and if Lewis wins, it still doesn't guarantee him, as much as we all love him in the promotion, I have to imagine, would want to get behind Lewis. We've kind of seen that dynamic of a matchup. Maybe they want Lewis to have one more win or whatever, but you pair a Ngannou or a Lewis with a sexy name like Kane, and then I think it makes sense. I think it makes sense for Kane to kind of put his clout on the line against one of these younger guns because you have the sexy matchup, you have the attention to it, they're going to throw that on a big card. But you got to keep Kane away from those young blood.
Mm-hmm. There is no way we don't see Kane and Stipe at some point. That is
I
the
hope
fight
so.
that
I'm hoping.
make.
I'm hoping.
I know they're dying to make it, and they'll figure out a way to do it. If they don't, I will go to a movie by myself, and that is my biggest fear.
Oh man,
really?
I've done that a lot.
So have I. Wait, not a lot, but I have done it. Dinner by myself, no problem. Traveling by myself, no problem. I guess I haven't racked up that many movies by myself. Now that I think about it, I don't know that there's maybe more than one or two. So I guess I'm almost in the same boat.
If it doesn't happen, can me and George pick the movie?
Yeah, I'll be tortured anyway, so it doesn't matter.
We're going to make Goes look like
don't
De Niro from
Taxi.
We can't make you look like De Niro from Taxi Driver?
Send you the Mitchell Brothers in Santa Ana.
What?
We should send you the Mitchell Brothers in Santa Ana.
What's that?
That's the old porn.
Yes.
It's no longer there, but it was there for a long time.
Yeah, then he'll really like De Niro from Taxi Driver.
Is that
sitting
like
there with his popcorn?
Spankies or whatever?
Yeah,
but it was an actual theater.
Really?
Yeah.
Where?
It used to be off of 17th, across from Santa Ana College.
Wait, why do you know about this?
That makes sense.
Because it was there for like 20 years. And as a teenager growing up, you always thought, I can't wait till I turn 18 to see what's going on down there. But, yeah. Why the crickets? I don't get that.
Because it wasn't.
I didn't crack a joke that failed. There wasn't silence.
I think that was playing to you, maybe saying.
That was probably when he snuck in, when there were crickets.
Or maybe playing to you saying it wasn't all that it was cracked up to be when you got older.
You can't sneak into a porn theater though, right? Because it's too much when you're tiptoeing in.
I don't know, man. I mean,
I've only been into one of those little, where what are those called? Like photo booths? Mm-hmm. Where they were just lined up. It was in Hawaii. They were all lined up. There was like 8 of them. And there was like a curtain. And so I've never been in an actual theater, but you got the feeling that it wasn't that way. But I remember there was a box of Kleenex there. The screen had spunk on it. And there wasn't, it couldn't have been just a curtain because you did have the feeling man, if I want to stretch myself here, I can. But at the same time, I don't think any of us did it. Like, I just think we sat down. I think we all went, what the fuck? Like, this is just a filthy spot. I mean, you can do this in your bathroom, for crying out loud. So, anyway. Okay. Where we at here? Kane and what? Heavyweights. Kane, Hawaii, jerking off. No, I was going to say something. You know, here's the thing, man. If Ngannou had fought Stipe, look, we all held on to our seats when we watched that fight because they're heavyweights. And Ngannou, even though he was tired, when he did throw, because I remember he hit Stipe with a good punch in round 4. And anybody that bet Stipe was like holding their breath. But if Ngannou had fought Stipe the way Alex fought Jones, we'd all be clamoring for Ngannou and Stipe again. And that's where he failed. He just didn't look good past round 2, with the exception of that punch in round 4. And maybe another moment or whatever. But that's why I think he'll need that second bout. I remember coming off the Jones fight, Alex was like, as soon as he got one win, he was like, we got to see part 2, you know? And then, of course, it never happened because Jones turned into a buffoon. But yeah, it's such a, you know, there is such a thing as a quality loss out there. And that's the difference between, it's basically, it affects your road back. You know, for Verdun, that wasn't a quality loss. So his road back's probably going to take those 2 or 3 you mentioned, that he mentioned, before his career ends, if he wants one more shot at the title. And, you know, if he's got it in him, go for it. And if he doesn't, it's been a fine career. When you reach the top, there's nothing wrong with that career, because he's reached the top of grappling, submission grappling. He's very well respected in submission grappling and in mixed martial arts. I mean, he won the interim title, so he's got that belt, and he won the UFC strap.
Derek Lewis and Francis Ngannou have been chirping. Do you want to see that fight? Because I don't.
I think back to Kane and Jr. when they were both young, and we didn't want to derail them because we wanted Brock Lesnar to face both.
But Ngannou's been derailed since then, right? So it's a little different now.
True, and so is Lewis.
But I still feel like a loss between one of them is going to derail them more, and I don't want that.
So I used to think that way, goes, and I'm not saying you're wrong, but what I've noticed is the derailment only lasts for about 2 more fights, and then you can be the toast of the town again, especially at heavyweight. In another division, sometimes you derail. It's like, whoa, oh, man, like in welterweight, a loss can cost you a lot. Like, it'll take a lot for Thompson to get another title shot. He's 1-1 against Woodley. But there's so many others that are coming through, like Usman and Covington and Till, and, of course, recycled the Lawlers and the Masvidals, that it could be a while for Thompson to get in there. Thompson's got to wait for certain things to go down, primarily for Woodley to lose. But at heavyweight, what I've noticed is, you know, you can get stamped out by someone, and then all of a sudden that someone loses, and you get a couple wins, and now you're ahead of them, you know. So, to tell you the truth, before they get injured or someone just decides to quit, yeah, I kind of do want to see them, believe it or not.
I'm with that. I'm usually with Goes in the sense, especially when it comes to fighters that I like. I'm like, oh no, I'm a big narrative guy, and I want to see that come through, just like we were talking about Jones and Gus and all these other examples, right? But I also agree with George, and the heavyweight, you know, it is much different for those reasons. Whereas, what that he pointed out. Whereas I'll point to the other side, where a guy like Tom Duquesnoy, who fought on this card, on the main card, sure he squeaked by with a win, but it's like a guy like that, like a younger prospect who has a lot of miles, and but you also has a lot to look forward to. You got to be more careful with a guy like that, you know, and maybe a lighter weight class, a younger guy. Just for kind of a different example of that. Whereas heavyweight, like George said, only a couple more. You've got a higher ceiling for your age, etc., etc. There's more room for error there.
Yeah, the one thing I have discovered, I mean, like, I've been covering this for 11 years now, but it's starting to emphasize more is there really is some fresh names that are coming out there. We keep thinking, like, what are we going to do when these stars retire? And sure enough, new ones do keep churning through. And so there will be some new ones in the next 18 months that will be going like, yeah, that's the new wave. And so now I want to see it before we lose it and we don't have it. All right, let's take a break. And when we come back, we'll talk about the co-main event. Jan Blachowicz defeated Jimmy Manuwa. They are 1-1 in their careers, but Blachowicz has the latest win, and we can talk about that and a little bit about what's going on in that division, along with unpacking the rest of UFC Fight Night 127, which took place in London, England this past weekend. And again, if you haven't heard, the main event had an upset with Alexander Volkov defeating Fabricio Verdun. It's Monday, March 19th. We're back. We're tackling this. We'll take your calls, too, at 866-522 2846. And in the second hour, we'll be talking to Iaquinta and Calvin Kattar. We'll be right back.
for more MMA Junkie Radio with Gorgeous George and Goes.
The ACC now has a 24/7 home on SiriusXM. Hear from the hosts like Mark Packer, Chris Patola, and more on SiriusXM ACC Radio, Channel 371, and on the SiriusXM app. All right. We talked a little bit about the main event, and we're going to get to the co-main event. In fact, just share your quick thoughts, guys, and then let's take these calls, and then we can go back and talk about what we think Manuwa and Blachowicz, what they will tackle going forward in 2018. But just your immediate thoughts on the fight goes.
Very frustrating. Well, okay, on the fight, I was talking more of the situation. The situation is frustrating because no matter who wins, neither guy really makes you feel like this is the guy that's going to take the champ out, right? Manuwa is just completely unpredictable, inconsistent. Blachowicz is just, he's hard to figure out. I don't know that he's great at anything. He's a good fighter, but again, you want guys that are going to proceed to give the champion some problems. And I don't feel like we're getting that. And even then, that fight doesn't make me go, now I got to see it a third time. Like, if it's part of, like, the undercard of a future card, all right, cool, let's see what happens. But I was just kind of like, meh.
Dan, Tom?
I agreed with Goes going in for all the reasons that we all that he stated and we all kind of stated. Like, what are we doing here? Attached to all the other arguments that we've had on this show. But, putting a positive spin on it, I guess I could say, is I was pleasantly surprised. Maybe because of, I'll do this a lot with movies. I always try to keep my expectations real low. I try not to watch the trailer. And a lot of times you'll find out you'll walk away from the movie with a better experience with a low expectation. So it might be a product of that, granted. But I was excited. And even though I agree with Goes that it really wouldn't mean anything, I will say that I'd be more excited to see it again because it was an entertaining fight. For me, it was a little compelling just because, I put a little wager on Blachowicz, put my money where my mouth is on that pick. But and in a lot of the senses, kind of went in the way I broke it down, where in the sense of if Blachowicz can survive that storm, I think the wrestling and clinch improvements can make the difference.
And he did take some shots, too.
And he did take some shots, too. And it was back and forth. So, I mean, I don't know. I felt really engaged watching it. I'm only putting, a couple bucks on these fights in retrospect. I'm not a big player by any means, so it's not like my investment's coming from that. My investment's coming from being a fan.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed the fight. I don't know.
Okay, yeah. No, you guys summarized it good. The only thing I'll say is I felt like even though Manuwa suffered a loss to Ozdemir, Volkan Ozdemir, he had some heat with Cormier, and I think that's important.
Yeah.
So had Jimmy Manuwa won via a vicious KO or just a good performance, I feel like he could once again could have put that man's name, in his mouth and said, Cormier, where are you at? Anything simple. Because he's got the whole London crowd behind him. He would have just had a good performance. And it's up to the geeks like us to type in, bitch, you just lost a vote. That's all Twitter talk, right? But at that moment, when the millions are watching at home or whatever, the thousands in the arena, at that moment, you can kind of create something. You can create a little story there, build for the future. Because this is a division that's kind of rail thin. And if you catch Alex still hobbling or Jones still in his troubles, guess what? You may sneak in there and they have something to build. And what do you want more than anything when you're watching a fight? Someone to get their ass kicked and someone to do the ass kicking and for you to pick one of the two sides. So something I felt could have come out of it, but Manuwa didn't win. And he didn't have that type. Even if he had won, he didn't provide that type of performance. And so here we are with, like Go said, just another fight that we're not that interested in the third fight unless these two start beefing on Twitter. I don't know. And you know what? Some of these fighters may have to take to that. Even if it's, I can't talk shit. Well, you know what? Go to Twitter, tell one of your buddies that's very artistic to come up with some meme or something and start picking a fight that way, but get people interested because going forward, that trilogy isn't really going to matter much. And you saw that. I said it the other day, but what was it? Fisher and Stout? They had two great fights. It took them like 8 years to get the third one. So the UFC will do it when sometimes when the time is right, and sometimes they won't do it at all, even if it had been a great fight. So you never know what they got cooking, but that was frustrating, man. I wanted something more to come out of that, and I felt like Manuwa was closer to making himself more relevant.
I completely disagree. You and Dan are not that geeky.
Well, on a note that you did touch on, though, I think a lot of it, George, too, is light heavyweight. I think is we complain about heavyweight, and I think you're right. Like light heavyweight, Jesus. Like light heavyweight, you can get that quick turnaround too, just like a heavyweight, right? You can get that loss and come back. And Jimmy Manuwa, if he had that performance, he could have done that too.
This would have been it. It would have erased Volkan, because now Volkan took the loss to Cormier. You see what I'm saying?
Right. But I think light heavyweight, their guys are a bit younger. Like I think it's going to take a little bit longer for the influx. Whereas heavyweight, there's young guys too on the come up, but they can climb up those ranks. Whereas light heavyweight, I think the bigger names at light heavyweight are guys like Dominic Reyes, people that'll be like who, or I know Ankalaev just got submitted by Paul Craig, but another one of Karadov's guys that entered light heavyweight earlier this year. I'm trying to look up his name right now, but he actually does look legit. He's already got a win in the UFC. But it's a lot of these younger guys who the casual don't know their name. Those are the guys that a lot of the people in the know are pointing to the next people of the division. But it's just going to take, I think it's going to take a little more time for the light heavyweight, right?
Yeah, it is. And I forgot, in mentioning heavyweights, Tuivasa, is that his name?
Tai Tuivasa,
He needs to be talked about as well. And
he's
got
looking in, really.
Oh yeah, but at least there's a name out there that we got to pay him some respect, because he's either ranked or an honorable mention.
Abdul Karim Edilov, that was the other guy to look out for at light heavyweight.
Now, see, those guys take a cue from Khabib. Learn English or start getting creative, but make us care or make us remember, because otherwise, they'll just get filed away. Mike from Miami's up first with the phone calls. If you want to follow him, it's 866-522-2846. What's up, Mike?
What's going on, guys? Actually, this is the other Mike from Miami, and if you want to, I'm also the second Michael Sanchez from Facebook, so just so you guys know the difference.
What's up, brother? How you doing?
I know you guys haven't talked upon it. Hanging in there. I haven't called in a while. I usually work overnight, so I had a day off, so figured why not give a phone call. I know you guys haven't touched up on it yet, but I mean, my weekend was made with the incredible comeback with Paul Craig. I have put a short, small $20 dog parlay with him and Cajun Johnson.
Oh wow!
Which obviously worked out on my. I was watching the fight. 3 minutes left. I thought he was going to lose. I go downstairs for a snack. I come up a couple minutes later, and all of a sudden, I saw that he won. I was like, I almost my jaw dropped. And I found it on Twitter, and I saw the replay. And I thought it was just amazing. I want to see what you guys thought about that. And I'll take this one off the air. I want to see why don't you think maybe they haven't tried to pair off Ozdemir with Gus, and maybe, I mean, personally, I would have loved to see a match with Jimmy and Glover. I thought them two, they offer excitement. It could have been maybe a solid, not really, maybe a second underneath the main card. I mean, underneath the what is I'm looking for? The
co-main?
Main event. Underneath the main event, yeah, co-main. So I thought that would be, that would have been something exciting. I thought that putting him against putting Jimmy against in this rematch was probably setting him up for an upset. And if he lost, I think he had more to lose in the game. Because can he actually go against Glover now with a loss? And that's it, guys. I'll take it off the air. Thank you.
Thank you for the call.
Man, the roster's so deep. I can't believe all of the names that we've thrown out just today.
Yeah.
And Rockhold will probably move up to light heavyweight after him and Bisping do it, because I really believe that will be Bisping's last fight. But that'll be another name to add to 205. But we just don't know if it'll be irrelevant.
Right. As far as what he said about like Ozdemir, I think putting Ozdemir and breaking up that what do you call Manuwa, Latifi, and Gustafsson, they're all training together. And granted, Manuwa just took a loss.
Ozdemir too? Isn't Ozdemir with the Combat Club?
No, he doesn't. He isn't. That's why I'm saying Ozdemir, parlaying to Mike's idea, would be great. Throw him against those guys. Throw a top contender to kind of break up that contention, right? I mean, Manuwa's kind of out of contention now after this last weekend, but Latifi and Gus are still right there. So I like that idea. As far as the Craig Ankalaev, I don't know if you guys have any live stories from it, but live I was watching, and one of my parlay ended up getting busted, so it didn't work out for me like it worked for you. Congrats, Mike. But one of my parlay legs from the article to personally, obviously, was that fight wouldn't go to the distance because Ankalaev got bet up to minus 700. He was the biggest favorite on the card over Paul Craig, and I figured why are you gonna lay minus 700? I'm like, why don't you just lay minus 245 on fight doesn't go the distance? That way you're covered if Ankalaev wins inside the distance, or if Paul Craig gets the upset. Because if Paul Craig was going to get the upset, it was by submission. No one saw that. I mean, in fact, it was about a couple seconds till the fight was over, and I'm sure you guys have done this move. The fight past fights, they're jamming, which is great. They're jamming the fight after fight, so you're kind of having to pick your spots where you go refill your drinks in the fridge. And I'm like, this fight's done. This is done. I'm going to walk away, and all of a sudden I hear the commentators freaking out. And it was a finish, and that happened twice on the card. But
4:59. Right?
Yeah. So I was blown away too.
Yeah, good call, Mike. Great to hear from you. All right, let's take one more. Kevin from Chicago. What's up, Kevin? How you doing?
I'm good. How's it going, guys?
Good, man. Thank you.
Good. I want to talk about Volkov. I think he's a pretty tough matchup for a lot of the heavyweights because he's got a good gas tank, and he's real calm on the bottom. And that could cause a lot of problems for guys that try to get him out of it real quick. So we should stay patient, wear some of these bigger, more chubbier heavyweights out, don't got the gas tank, but got a little bit more power. And I think he could cause some problems for a lot of guys.
Well, I do want to say a couple things for Volkov. I guess we've all talked about his win, right? But there was times where in the third, I felt like that was a wounded Verdum with the eye. And Volkov, I want him to make more use out of his length. And I thought he could have popped the jab out there because Verdum wasn't going to really duck under and double him. And Verdum wasn't really firing back because he was saving all his energies for, like, explosions. You know what I mean? And so I was a little disappointed in that. And I was also a little disappointed that two heavyweights that aren't really, like, the thicker guys, so they should be of the variety that maybe can have better cardio. Maybe it was dejection, but I also think it was cardio. He needs to realize that he comes out of this win like with a whoo, you know what I mean? Like, okay, I got the win, but I gotta address this cardio, and I gotta start taking it up a notch for those other guys that are out there that are above me. So he still has work to do, but I don't want to take away from his win because he got past a very difficult out. But those were two things that I guess I left out in my Volkov. Again, the return of Kane can just ruin anything,
right?
And Curtis Blades for sure has a lot of pop. So does Derek Lewis. They have good streaks.
Curtis Blades, he got a win over Mark Hunt, who's below Verdum. Verdum is a way bigger win, coming off the former champ. I think Volkov is a clear-cut #1 contender.
But
now.
Did you think he looked great against Verdum? That's the thing.
Yeah, he survived the early storm. And then he knocked him out cold. Looked real good.
I mean, he did, but at the end, myself, or Dan could have just tapped his chin and he would have went out.
Verdum is a tough matchup.
He is.
He's got to be
That's
careful.
what I was going to say.
Swing.
You have to fight certain guys certain ways.
He can submit you at any minute, so it's a very tough matchup.
I agree. I agree with Mike in the sense of like Kevin. In the sense of like it's hard to judge because you could say he looked dejected in his corner between corners. I thought he was done, Volkov, right? But the fact that he came back and won and survived the storm, it just again everything is on perspective, and you can either look at it that was a poor performance, he barely skated through, or that was impressive. He took a last-minute matchup against a former world champion, a tough guy to fight, was in the worst position he could have been for 2 rounds, and still find his way back into the fight. That's all on perspective. As far as your question on Volkov, I agree. It's hard for me to bump my chest because I picked Verdum here. Not only that, I picked Stefan Struve to beat Volkov. So it's hard for me to say this, but if you go read those breakdowns or if you ever heard me on the show, I was always the first to say that I don't say this about anyone else in the heavyweight division. Volkov is your dark horse in this division. I think he's a tough matchup for Stipe Miocic, and that's another reason why I think they're not going to make him #1 contender because he's a tough matchup and he hasn't got enough steam.
Well, no, they wanted to. They wanted to make that fight, actually. UFC was trying to make that fight before they set up for Verdum versus Volkov. So I think they're not protecting Stipe at all.
Well, one last thing, though.
Stipe up next fight against Volkov.
Blades. We're talking to Eddie Alvarez. Doesn't he sound like
a little bit? Blades has. I'm
not saying they're protecting.
He's fighting in Chicago, right? Yeah. Blades, and who's he got? Overeem.
Yeah.
Right. So remember, Stipe's already fighting Cormier, so I don't think there's anything they can do with Volkov at this moment and commit him because they have that other fight that's booked. And as good as we can make Volkov's win sound. I can think back to a few weeks ago when we said he marched into Australia, so he actually beat a hometown guy and just took the life out of a guy like Mark Hunt and took his best shot as well. So I think a case can be made for Blades as well. I'm not saying that anybody's right or anybody's wrong here, but that's just another guy I feel that can steal his shine because he's got the big fight in Chicago, and in between then, I don't know if Volkov would be smart to maybe either fight on the same card as Miocic and Cormier and really build his case, or just hang back if he really thinks it's him. But I don't think it's a clear-cut him, personally. I think there's Blades, Lewis, and Kane for him to worry about.
Well, and there's a lot of time, right? Because it's a lifetime in MMA. Summertime still? I mean, we're in March, but 3 months to 4 months is a lifetime in MMA. So much can change in that landscape since then. You can't rest on it, especially when you have big names like Blades queued up against another big name like Overeem. No matter what you think about Overeem at this stage in his career, if Blades goes out and ices Overeem, then he's got Hunt and Overeem.
Can you imagine? Yeah.
So
grab the mic and say something.
And I don't think they're trying to protect Stipe either or anything, nor does Stipe need protection. But I'm just speaking in the term of today's sport, where, let's be honest, Volkov probably not their first option if they're looking for a heavyweight bangbuster, right? That's why we kind of had Cormier versus Stipe in the first place.
Yeah. All right, good call, Kevin. We got to go. It's our time for the next break. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM, Rush 93. And let me leave you with this. It's still a damn shame that Vitaly Minakov is neither in Bellator or the UFC. Because in talking about all those heavyweights, I mean, that guy's got a lot going for him. KO power, undefeated record. Where could he be? Someone sign him, for crying out loud.
Not even an explanation.
We'll be right back.
Hey, idiot! Yeah, you! Can you please tap that rather large fellow on the shoulder and tell him it's time for more MMA Junkie Radio with Gorgeous George and Goes? Thank you.
Just like it's stupid long season, here comes a long read. It's fantasy baseball draft season, and SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio is helping you build a championship team. Listen to the best fantasy baseball analysts tell you which players you need to draft and teach you winning strategies. Hear interviews with Major League Baseball players and general managers for fantasy baseball insights you won't hear anywhere else. Plus, pick-by-pick analysis of expert drafts and auctions. Everything you need to win your fantasy baseball league can be heard on Sirius 210, XM87, and on the SiriusXM app. Just search Fantasy Baseball. Here it comes, baseball, the longest fucking sport in the world. 162 games, then there's like 3 more series, and then to top it off, they still need 30 or 45 games in Arizona and Florida just to get them ready for the pinchy season. Incredible. Don't they all know how to hit a baseball and field and a double play and what to do and where to position yourself? And I mean, they actually need to like come on, man.
There's a cottage industry.
162 games to settle it all. And 2 teams show up on a Monday and just do a wild card game, and then boom, one of them's out.
It's a different matchup every night. It's like a different game.
All I know is it probably created a lot of secure jobs by having that much gameplay throughout the year. That it created a whole ton of jobs, a nice cottage industry that's going to keep justifying all those games, I'm sure.
And it's guaranteed money, too, for all those players. Good for them,
yeah,
though. But still, you can actually sign the contract and then tear the labrum and then just, I'm out. And he's just collecting them checks, sitting in that dugout, spitting and chewing gum and, grabbing your crotch when the camera shows. Play every 5th day, work every 7th day, and they're just sitting there collecting these big old paychecks.
I don't expect you guys to get this reference, but Yamcha from Dragon Ball Z was a damn fool. He stopped playing professional baseball to go be a fighter and a martial artist, and always complained about money. This guy from Dragon Ball Z, he used to be a professional basebal player and left
this
that.
This is for real, or that's in the movie?
This isn't for real. I'm speaking as if it's for real for comical value, but yeah, it's comical. It's a cartoon that you see a lot of the fighters, whether it's like Uriah Hall or Rousey, or these people talk about and stuff. But
you two are the Beavis and Butthead of baseball.
Him and I?
Yeah.
It's a great game when the stakes are really high, but you know what's the worst too? There'll be like I'll pick a day out of the calendar. It'll be like July 29th. We've already done International Fight Week. Summer's still not over.
Okay.
I'll put in like a long day. It'll be like a Thursday, right? And I'll look up and I'll just hear like, so the Royals take the field. Baltimore won. Kansas City too, 3rd inning. This place is a fucking ghost town. Nobody's looking. It's up there, and you look in the stands, and there's like 9,000 in a 60,000 seat stadium, and I can't believe 9,000 people paid to see that game. They're both like one's like 16 games out, the other one's like 23 and a half games out, and yet they still got to go through those motions. Like at some point, like I would like it if in May they just go, wow, those two suck. Get them out of the season.
Right.
We'll see you next year. You don't have to relegate them if you don't want. We'll just see you next year. And then in June or July, they kick another 4 out and just start to play the teams that matter towards the end. But how they get into these games,
shoot,
I bet you those 9,000, 5,000 just wanted to get away from their spouse, and they just go to the game just to get lost for 4 hours.
Yeah, I was going to say, and how do you sit through that? Even if you're a fan of baseball, it's got to be tough, right? I imagine, soccer and hockey, I imagine, are 2 of the easier sports. If you don't know anything about, you could sit in live and enjoy the action, right?
Exactly.
It's going to go back and forth. It's going to go back and forth.
Dunks, fights, something, nothing. Hell, I don't know. All right, when we come back, we'll be talking to Calvin Kattar. He's up first, and then Iaquinta. Stay close. It's the MMA Junkie Radio Show on Sirius XM Rush 93. right, here we go. It's the second hour of the MMA Junkie Radio Show. Little Jackson 5 for you guys. We're going to start off with a superstar in the 145-pound division of the Ultimate Fighting Championships. Those are the featherweights. 29 years of age, 5'11", 145, 18-2 overall, 2-0 in the UFC. His last win, TKO stoppage over Shane Burgos at UFC 220 with Miocic and Ngannou. It was a huge win for him, and now he's already got another fight lined up at UFC 223 versus Renato Carneiro. It's Calvin Kattar. What's up, Calvin? How you doing?
Hey, fellas. How you doing?
Good, man. Welcome back to MMA Junkie Radio. You're on with George Goes and the fight analyst, Dan Tom. How you doing?
Good, man. Just left the gym. On my way to the gym. Appreciate you guys having me on.
Hey, you know what I'm digging about your career? So, I love the record, 18-2 overall, 2-0 in the UFC, 7 KOs, 3 submissions. I mean, the 2 losses. Other than that, there's really not much that's gone bad for you. But what I'm really digging is Feely, UFC 214, Burgos, UFC 220, and then this next one's UFC 223. Not only are they all pay-per-view cards, they're all good ones.
I agree, man. I've been real fortunate. Lucky to have the opportunities I've had in front of me, but I like to think a lot of hard work put that luck in front of me, and I'm excited about the opportunity ahead of me.
You think it's anything you've also done that just makes them say, we got to get this kid and keep putting a spotlight on him on these big cards, make sure he's on these cards so people can watch, and maybe we got a potential contender here at 45.
Hey, that's above my pay grade, man. I just go out, try to get the job done every time. The way I put it, every time, if I could just get my hand raised, the opportunities are going to get bigger, along with the paychecks and opportunities. So I'm just excited about going out and getting my hand raised like I know I can.
Now, see, a guy like myself, I'd already be thinking about UFC 226 and who I'm fighting there after I beat Renato Carneiro, just to kind of stay on the big cards. But how about you? Are you a dreamer? Do you look forward like that, or do you just isolate yourself on UFC 223 versus Carneiro?
No, I keep it with the Patriots mindset, man. We're on a Renato Moicano. After that, we'll see what opportunities are ahead of us. But right now, he's a tough test. I'd like to get a top 15 win under my belt. I know we're both ranked there now, but I want to go out and take out this number 11 spot, and then go out and chew on some top 10s.
I love it. I love hearing that. And you basically, you talked about the Patriots in a way because they've been Super Bowl contenders every year for like the last 20 years. So let me ask you this. If the Super Bowl is a world title fight, where do you think you're at if your career's a football season? Are you in the regular season? Are you just starting the wild card round? How close do you think you are to a Super Bowl?
I mean, like I said, if I just go out and get my hand raised, I never rush it. Even getting my debut in the UFC, if you look at it, a lot of guys are in a rush to get there. I always just, put in the hard work. What good's getting there if you're not ready anyway? And if you can't beat the guys they're putting ahead of you, then you got no business getting there. So my mindset's always been, if you just keep getting your hand raised, they can't deny you. And we're here now, and I'm ready to make a run at it.
And Renato Carneiro is a good fighter, great record. His last fight, even though it was a loss, was an awesome fight. So I'm really digging the matchup. I'm sure you're excited about that as well.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like he was winning that fight the whole time. Made a quick mental error in the third for whatever reason and got caught. But it's the UFC. It's the top 15. Anything can happen. Everybody in the top 15 is tough. It's the UFC. So I'm just excited about the challenge, man. I'm going to go out and perform like I know I can, get my hand raised.
Calvin Kattar, our guest here on MMA Junkie Radio, will be facing Renato Carneiro at UFC 223 on April 7th. It's March 19th, so you do the math. These are the hard sparring days. This is where all the hard work's being done, and soon you'll start to taper down and worry more about the weight cut. But we're getting close, folks. And let's not forget, that is the card that also has Khabib and Tony Ferguson. So I cannot wait for UFC 223. All right, let me hand it over to the guys. Here it goes. What do you have for Calvin Kattar?
Calvin, it pretty much seems like you've been in one giant training camp right now, going back to the Burgos fight and now this.
Yeah.
Did you have that release in between cards? Like, where are you at mentally?
Yeah, for sure. My buddies had a whole bunch of tickets they had to cash in Vegas the week after my fight. So we went out and did that. They surprised me with an itinerary, and we went out there, got some good food, And I came right back, and it was back to business, man. I like it. I like the pace. I was having lunch with my manager, Tyson Chartier, and we got a text, and I didn't know it would be my last meal, a nice big 12-ounce steak. It was good while it lasted, but I'm ready to get back to work, man. A lot of opportunity in front of me, and I'm ready to go out and take it.
George, Calvin is holding back from us, and I'm going to tell you why.
Why?
Anybody who sets up a trip to Vegas and has an itinerary, it doesn't just revolve around food.
Yeah.
He did other stuff.
Where'd you go, to the Rhino?
Yeah,
or
what else was on that
I'd
itinerary?
like to be completely honest, we were at the club, and the week after my fights, I'm still in my fat boy phase. So they ordered the champagne bottles, but I was eating the strawberries off the plate. I wasn't getting in too much of that partying lifestyle. A week after the fight, I'm thinking of what everybody ate, the whole camp, that I want to eat. And so I was going through a lot of that, and then by the time I was going to get out to get a little bit more wild, maybe, we already had another one booked. So it's my birthday, actually, the 26th of March, so maybe after this fight, we'll be staying in Brooklyn a little bit later, a little longer, and hopefully celebrating with some of my family I have out there.
Yeah, be specific, though. What kind of a club? Was there, like, fist pumping and, music drops, or are you talking about glitter and lap dances?
It was One Oak. I think
One Oak, that's good.
The glitter and lap dances after, too, but I'm not a big lap dance guy. I like to buy those for the people I'm with and get a good laugh out of it. But, yeah, overall, man, you don't go to Vegas and complain about it. So we had a good time.
Calvin, now on this card, you have teammates that are peaking at the same time as you. Can you talk about the relationship with Joe Lozon and how that works out? I know a lot of fighters say they're even more stressed out and nervous when their teammates fight.
For me, it's a complete opposite. In Boston, we were spoiled. It was me, my number one teammate, Rob Font, helped me out big time this fight. He's not absent this camp, even though he's not on the card. He's in full swing with us. Having my other teammate, Kyle Bosniak, on the card, it's great, back-to-back with him. Joe was in the locker room for our last fight in Boston, so it's going to be much of the same with that vibe, but this time he'll be competing as well. And also another student from his gym, Mike Rodriguez. So there's a lot of the New England talent on the card. It's going to be a good drive, good feel out back, and short trip also, going from Boston to New York. We're all excited about it. And I'm really happy to be seeing New England get this type of exposure on the next martial arts scene in the UFC. It's something special to be a part of, man, and I'm excited to go out and perform.
Dan Tom, the fight analyst. What do you have for Calvin Kattar?
Hey, what's up, Calvin? First of all, I just hey, good man. First of all, I just want to say, congrats on the win streak you've been putting together. But more importantly than that, I want to ask you a question about that. You're one of the more interesting cases. Obviously, you're a great fighter. I love watching your game. But something that stands out to me is the maturity in your game. You can hear it with the way you handle yourself now in an interview and the way you handle yourself in a fight. So I guess what I'm trying to ask is, there's a gap in your career. About 2012, 2013, I believe you did some promotional work for some. I want to say so in the promotional side of fights. And you took some time off.
Yeah, Combat Zone.
Okay.
Give a quick plug real quick. That's a promotion based out of Manchester, New Hampshire. Next event, June 29th. Be there.
Awesome, man. And I was able to watch some of your productions and watching tape and stuff, and it looks awesome. But I guess my question about that did that help you mature as a fighter? Because when you come back, you still have all the skills that you had previously in your career. You can see all the skills are there, but when you come back, it almost looks like you're putting everything together, man. Was there something that happened there?
For sure. That layoff, it was a blessing in disguise. Around that time, actually, funny story, me and Rob Font, my now teammate, we were like number two in the area at 45, back when he was eating cupcakes and still fighting. But, we were scheduled to probably fight at some point. And then my now manager, Tyson Chartier, who managed Rob at the time, had the foresight to, maybe see us, working together at some point down the line. And I had just taken over ownership of Combat Zone, the promotion I was just plugging. And so I've been running promotions now for the next 3 years or so. I took the layoff, and I had a little bit of an injury and stuff. I was letting heal that. But in that time, coming full circle, now me and Rob have the opportunity to be training together for these fights, working with Tyson. I have a great team around me, and at that moment, I didn't really have all the pieces to the puzzle I have now. And I'm really just grateful, fortunate to have a team of people I have around me. And I feel confident now taking on anyone that they put in front of me. So it could be Hanato, could be anybody. Replace his name with anybody. And I feel confident to go out there, and I think we'll make it a fight for anybody.
That's awesome. That's awesome to hear, man. And you mentioned you're training with Joe Lozon. I know that was something that you were training with him for last camp as well. That was kind of awesome to see. A lot of the New England area guys kind of strapped together. But as far as like striking and stuff goes, you're a really well-rounded fighter, obviously. But you've shown you can do it all. But striking, who you working with? Because I was real impressed with your jab, your footwork in these last couple outings now.
Yeah, thanks, man. I feel like the history of my stand-up career is kind of when I first booked my first fight. I didn't really have a like Muay Thai coach, crazy or anything like that. I had signed up a boxing lessons for the fight. I had some wrestling, and then from there we pushed it. But I'm actually on my way right now to Eddie Alvarez's house. We're getting in some good looks with him. He's worked with Tony Martin in the past, Rob Font specifically, and a couple other up-and-coming pros that you'll be noticing soon on the circuit. But shout out to him. Also, Big John Johnson, he's been helping me out a lot too with the fundamentals. Greg Rebello, who's in my corner now, he's getting another shot in the contender soon. You guys will be seeing his name popping up real quick if you don't already know about him. But yeah, just a shout out to all my team, kind of helped me get ready, and we're really putting together a good game plan because it's not about being tough. It's about sticking to a game plan, going out there and executing. And I really feel like we got all the pieces right now, and I'm just happy to be a part of it. Like you said, having a guy like Joe Lozon in Camp 2, his knowledge is crazy. I've been looking up to him from the start of my career, seeing him do big things in Boston and all over the UFC. It's been really wild to be a part of it. To come full circle now and have my shot, I'm not going to let it slip away, man. I'm going to go out and make the best of it.
And let me tell you the laser focus on this guy, because
I like the laser focus drop right there, TB12. Let's go.
Because think about it, he fought in late January, right, at the UFC 220 event, and then he talked about that release he had with the homies in Vegas and everything. But
yes,
Combat Zone has got a show coming up. I guess it'll be CZ66 in June, but CZ65 was on February 17th. So imagine prepping for your own fight, going off, blowing some steam, and then coming back and then putting on the promoter hat, take that off, and then all of a sudden that's probably even been a little bit part of while he's been camping for Moicano. So that's some laser focus. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And the goal is to just keep that as one cap. Just be all in and everything. Keeping that mindset with life, all opportunities that are in front of me. Try to balance it all and go all in. Just be proactive. And hold yourself accountable for the results. And as long as you put in the work, you're in the runnings, So I'm just keeping my head down. I'm putting in the work. And like you had said, that layoff helped me get rid of most of my distractions that I might have had throughout the youth of my career and things. And I feel like right now I'm at a good point. I'm at a good place. And I'm just ready, man.
By the way, Calvin, is the plan with Combat Zone to continue growing? Do you think you can wear the hat of a promoter and be a fighter as you continue to have success in both, or do you see yourself at some point moving on from Combat Zone? Tell me about that.
I really like that opportunity to be working with Combat Zone. It's really rewarding to pay forward the opportunity that I had to compete on a local level, to get the shot I have now to fight on a national stage or worldwide for the UFC. I fought for Combat Zone 9 times before taking over ownership. Mm-hmm. So it's a real feel-good experience every time I get to an event. I see where I came from, my roots. It keeps me humble, keeps me hungry. And just driving by the venues I was competing at once, just looking at them and now thinking, I just fought at TD Garden, I'm fighting at the Barclays Center. It's pretty wild, but it's only going to go up from here. And as long as you put in the work, there's no reason why it shouldn't happen. So I'm putting in the work, staying humble, working hard, and I'm expecting results.
All right, let me ask you one more, and again, along the same lines, and I ask respectfully. As these fights continue to grow, as you're gunning for Holloway, if you're the promoter of Combat Zone and you're putting out fires, because there's problems that come along with running a promotion, the day of weigh-ins, the actual night. If you're doing that, you may not be training and staying focused for Holloway. Holloway doesn't have any distractions, I guess, other than being a father. But you see what I'm saying? Yeah. At some point, can you match him in your preparation for a title fight or whoever's champ at the time?
So it's just, I consider that a fight for me as well, and I treat it the same way. I have a great team around me at Combat Zone, and when I have fights like this, and really more so even without the fight, they're a big help while I'm training, 6, 7 hours a day, whatever it might be, going through the weight cuts. They're still working, so we touch base following the workouts, and it's a moving wheel, and I'm really just happy around the people I have around me, not only with the fights and the team to go out and compete, but also for Combat Zone, the team I have around me to run the event smoothly each time around. As you said, it's our 66th event, probably about upwards to my 20th show as a promoter, so it's not our first show. We have a good team of people around me, and I'm just really happy and grateful for the people I have around me to continue to do what I'm doing and go out and perform.
Right on, man. I love the answer. Combat Zone 66 on June 29th. Check it out. Go to czmma.com. Calvin Kattar will be fighting on April 7th at UFC 223 at the Barclays in Brooklyn, New York. His opponent that night will be Renato Moicano. Thank you very much for the time, Calvin. We really appreciate it. It was a great catch-up. Congrats on that win. A few weeks ago we didn't really catch up after that, but it was really awesome to see you perform there at the TD Garden. You got to talk to Joe Rogan. It was awesome, man. And now you got this other big fight.
Thing.
Yep. All right, brother. We'll talk to you soon, all right?
All
right.
Yes, sir. Have a good one.
Take care. You too. Big shout-out to Ed Cap for lining that one up. Wow, he looks like he's in a good spot.
Yeah, and he's in a good mood. It seems
Yeah.
like he's got everything laid out. I like this kid.
Think about that, man. Promoting a show like that, and now he says it's his 20th, and sandwiched in between all these big fights. And how about the luck to be on 214, 220, 223? I think he should parlay that into something, like if he really feels like he can keep going and look ahead a little bit, have your opponent down and say, this is the way it is, man. I fight on the big cards,
Yeah.
Put me on 226, and I want fill in the blank.
Yeah, I mean, even if you don't even have to call out a guy to be able to have your, kind of have some trajectory on your name, have a place in mind. Alvy's good about having a name, Sam Alvey, something he's underrated for, but Sam Alvey will also, he'll attach a place to it, too, to where if, this guy's not, then I'll take Europe's best, and he said that before because he wants to be on a European card, for example. So, Kattar would be like, he just did Boston, he's going to do New York, then I would gun and be like, I want Vegas, I want a main card, top 10, 4 in a row or 3 in a row now.
Write your script, man. Write your script. All they can say is no. But I've seen many times where the headline will be, he asked for it, he got it, and then you got a matchup.
Yeah, it's true.
On our show alone.
I did like his answers.
Yeah.
This guy's mature, man. I really like where his head's at as far as his answers.
Yeah. All right, so we got a few minutes here before we break for Iaquinta, and I want to continue going down Saturday's card just to kind of keep progressing. That really was the only card of the weekend. Bellator had the weekend off, and even our friends at Access TV, none of their promotions had anything going on. So, talking about Verdum and Volkov, about the card, we covered that. We covered the main event, and then Ware and Duquesnoy. How did you guys score that? Did you agree or think Ware pulled it out?
I thought it was close. I thought a lot of people were just overreacting a little bit on Twitter. I thought it was close. I gave it to Duquesnoy.
Yeah, I don't think it was a robbery by any means, but I actually scored it for Ware. I scored it 29-28 for Ware. The round 2 was very close. I was even worried. I could see it in a world where again, this is the reason why you can't get so mad. Kind of something that George always preaches. You really can only get so mad at a judge's scorecard at the end of the day, especially for a fight like that where you can make arguments for either guy. I mean, hell, the round 1 was probably the most clearest Duquesnoy round, but I wouldn't have been surprised to see a judge being swayed by Tyrion Ware landing shots in the last 30 seconds, taking him down, getting to mount, and landing more hard shots. We've seen before that's more than enough to steal a round. Whether you agree with it or not, that's more than enough to steal a round. That's a fact. So when you kind of look at it from that aspect, I don't think it's a robbery. You could have made arguments either way. I personally had it for Ware. I feel bad for Ware. He's had to fight Sean O'Malley, Cody Stamen, Tom Duquesnoy, all young prospects with a lot of miles and a lot of look forward in their career. And Tyrion Ware has fought them all the tough decisions, man. So yeah. I hope they give him a chance.
I also didn't feel like it was a robbery, but I also thought Ware was going to get the decision.
Okay.
And I have heard since then from Ware's social media that they're already going to offer him another fight. So believe it or not, yeah, he's gonna survive the official 0-2, but really throwing in. Wait, no, he's 0-3.
0-3, yeah.
So that's. I mean, it's been done before.
Yeah.
But he looks like he's gonna get some love from the UFC, if you're wondering. And moving on to Leon Edwards versus Peter Sabata.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one of the fights that ended at the last second. Yeah. Your thoughts on Edwards Sabata?
It was a close fight like I thought it would. I didn't blame anybody for picking or playing Sabata on there because he was live, and I think he proved to be. But
I did.
I think it was one of those things where we saw the traditional tropes of Leon Edwards, where he's kind of waiting on his shots, like he kind of does a little too much, right? Could use a little more emphatic volume, but you saw him pick it up as it went on. As far as the stoppage goes, I don't have a problem with it because even though it seemed like it was kind of out of nowhere, and it felt like the ref was trying to frame it up. Like now, there's framing, like we talked about John McCarthy, where you're doing it to help the fighter, where you're letting him know. You're both letting the guy know more offense and you can win this fight, but you're also letting the guy know on the bottom, hey, I need more defense or you're going to lose this fight. Now, I believe that's a straight down the line. This ref, if you go back, he was kind of framing it a little too much to where I need to see more when there wasn't even a shot being thrown at certain points, when there wasn't even a punch being thrown on the ground. So there was a little bit of that, but am I going to criticize a ref for actually stopping and saving a guy damage? No, I don't have a problem with the stoppage.
How about the post-fight?
Wants Till next, but I don't think he's at Till's level.
Hey, dude, but he put it out there.
Yeah, and we're talking about
it.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I thought it was kind of cool.
I think so. I think at the very worst, I don't think. I'm sure we'll touch on that later, but I'm not too high on him getting that matchup as high on his chances, I should say. I mean, the dude deserves it, but I think it's good because it brings recognition that hey, this is one of the longest active welterweight win streaks going on right now, and Leon Edwards has that active welterweight win streak, so he's got that card.
All right. Just to sum up everything else that happened on the prelims, Charles Byrd, Danny Roberts, Danny Henry, Paul Craig, Cajun Johnson, and Dmitry Sosnovsky all got wins on the fight card that we're talking about here in London. You were saying something?
I was just going to say that was a very good debate that we just had.
Oh, I see. We will probably tackle that a little bit later. I think we have to go to a commercial pretty soon, so I don't know that we'll have enough time, but I got you. All right, so since we have a couple minutes here to kill before we take the big break, in the NCAA March Madness, the team I had winning it all went out on day one. Believe it or not, I'm still like in third place, and I actually have a shot to win because of the madness. I mean, if that wasn't bad enough, the number 1 seed, Virginia, got upset as well. That was incredible. A 16 beat a 1.
I'm still alive.
Yeah, and how about all the buzzer beaters? The last day had a lot of straight up dogs beat the favorites.
Did 15 beat 2?
It was crazy, man.
Didn't someone call saying that 15 was going to beat 2? Did 15 beat 2?
They had one bracket. I'm trying to explain this in Dan Tom terms.
Okay,
but
thank you.
You know how it goes 1 to 16, right?
Yeah.
Ranks.
Yeah.
It's meant nothing at all in this tournament. Like
okay.
I think one bracket, the highest they have left is like a 5 or something like that.
Jeez.
It's like teams are just getting waxed left and right.
Jeez. So who shows up?
I'm actually in second now that I look at it.
Yeah.
So,
but it's all about your possible points.
Xavier's
too, right?
a number 1. They're out. Virginia's a number 1. They're out. Arizona was a number 4, right? They're out. But that's who I had winning it, and that's why I thought I was out. Villanova's still in, and Purdue's in. So you got a 1 and 2 in the East. And then Kansas, I don't know about no Kansas, but they're in. Duke is still in, and they're a number 2.
See, this one made me want to change my strategy.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, Duke's still in. So the West is a complete mess, and so is the South.
Does this make you want to change your strategy, though? Like, wouldn't you, instead of picking, like, top-seeded teams, maybe you look for the teams that are like the Diego Sanchez of the basketball teams? In other words, they perform on fight night?
It's kind of rare.
That's rare?
Yeah, it's really rare.
Wow.
A 1 has never lost to a 16. Now, there's about a half dozen 2s that have lost to 15s, but a 1's never lost to a 16. So that was really huge.
Okay.
But that, along with some of the other things, just kind of made it so that it's just turned into a big clusterfuck. But, I mean, what was it? Baltimore County or something? UNBC?
Yeah.
I mean, when they beat Virginia, it's like the rest just didn't matter, you know? Like, that was almost like winning a championship for them, and I was really, really happy for them.
Upsets happen, but not in the way that, like, the teams that he's talking about that lost got crushed. It'd be crazy if they just lost, but they got completely destroyed. A lot of them.
Okay. All right.
And was anyone else wondering where that steak was that I wanted to ask him that? I wrote it down.
I was picturing it in my head.
Where's your favorite steak in all of Vegas?
In Vegas, aside from the one that I make?
It's the best, but just you've been there and you like it and you'd recommend it.
I want to say Joe Stone Crab, but they're more known for their seafood, and that's the complete package. Or they do their steaks from Chicago, which I appreciate. They do a good job. I don't know if they're still around, but Vic Antonio's was
Vic and Anthony's.
Vic and Anthony's.
The Golden Nugget?
There was this other place,
Yes.
Hugo Cellar, that's old school in downtown. Where you actually go. It's like an old school steakhouse. You actually go down in the brick cellar, and then they bring.
Really?
Yeah.
Where's that?
Hugo Cellar. It's super legit. And then it's
So
also.
where is it?
I want to say Four Queens. I want to say like Four Queens or something.
Wow.
Like it's old school. It's like you have to go
Sounds
underneath,
interesting.
and it's just like it's a real old school. They're done with the bricks, and they come up to you with a waiter with like a whole like salad cart, and they'll make you a custom salad right there.
Nice.
It's amazing.
I do like Vic and Anthony's. They have a boneless ribeye, and then strip steak comes strong as well.
I like Charlie Palmer's. Which
Charlie
is here
Palmer's.
at the Four Seasons.
Oh. Okay.
What about cuts? I think we're probably all different on cuts because I'm more of a bone-in ribeye guy. What are you guys for your cuts? Top cut.
Boneless ribeye.
Boneless ribeye.
Same thing.
You can't argue with that. Ribeye is the best cut, really, when you think about it.
New York
Yeah.
strip is second for me.
And the ribeye, when they throw it in the lomo saltado in Inca Mama's,
Sounds
it's
amazing.
awesome. But the last time I went, they said, we don't do that anymore. I was like,
Oh.
really? You fucked up. I felt like telling them. Because, yeah, it was delicious,
Man.
man.
They should make
That's
that
the way
this week.
to do a lomo saltado, in my opinion. All right, we got to take a break, as you can tell. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM Rush 93. When we come back, we'll be talking to UFC lightweight Al Iaquinta, who's got a big fight against Paul Felder on that same card as Calvin Kattar, UFC 223. That's headlined by Khabib and Tony. It's going to happen, folks. I know it.
They're so fat they gave Dracula diabetes. Here are your hosts, Gorgeous George and Goes.
Start your day with SiriusXM. Enable the SiriusXM skill on your Amazon device. Then tell Alexa to set an alarm for your favorite channel, and you'll wake up to the sounds of SiriusXM. With SiriusXM and Alexa, you can get the latest sports news each morning without picking up your phone or turning on the TV. All right. Danny, as I was doing the read, I got a message from Al. Please check in with him because he's saying that the connection is not good.
Okay, give me 1 second.
All right, and then just let me know when we're ready to go. Now, one cool thing about this fight card, guys, UFC 223, and we've noted this before, Tony and Habib, we know that's the main event.
Right.
And Pettis and Chiesa, that's also on the fight card. Iaquinta and Felder. I mean, think of the shakeup of what's going to come out of this card for 155 pounds. A new champion's going to be crowned. An old champion's going to be stripped. Two contenders are going to keep rising.
Yep.
And then two guys are going to take tough losses. So hearts are going to be broken, but it's going to be some happiness. You know what I mean? Like, a lot is really, really going to go down at 155 pounds in Brooklyn.
The main event is great because it's going to let us know where we're at. But this is the fight that I can't miss because of the matchup.
Oh, yeah.
Iaquinta and Felder?
Iaquinta and Felder, yeah.
Yeah. And Chiesa and Pettis, I'm telling you, man, there's some really, really
crazy
integral
matches,
pieces
right?
at 155 pounds that night. All right. He joins us now on MMA Junkie Radio. What's up, Al? How you doing?
I'm good. How's everything?
Great, man. We were just talking about UFC 223. What an amazing card it is. And, of course, it's in your backyard in New York. But Jesus, everything that can come out of 155 pounds on that day, a new undisputed champion. The other guy's going to get stripped. Two contenders are going to be primed and ready, and then obviously there'll be some hearts broken for the guys that don't pick up some losses or that pick up the losses. But I mean, you got to be jacked for that night, not just the opponent, but just what it means for the division.
Yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, yeah, for the weight division, that's cool, but I'm focused on this fight. I'm the main event as far as I'm concerned, you know what I mean? It's all coming, it's all, afterwards I'll worry about whatever else happens, but I got a tough fight ahead of me, and I'm looking forward to it.
And Al, you're a happy lightweight because you got the contract that you wanted. So what does that mean? Is that is a happy Al a more dangerous Al? Tell me your state of mind now after getting what you wanted after beefing with the UFC for so many years.
I'm in this. Nothing's changed. They paid me enough to fight. So I'm fighting.
Okay.
That's really all it comes down to. It's not like they made up for anything. If anything, they still owe me a whole bunch. So it's just enough.
All right, so that was just a mini battle in that kind of ongoing war as far as getting paid your worth.
I don't know if it's whatever it is. It's just enough for me to train and fight Paul Felder, and that's it. That's as far as I'm looking into this whole thing. They asked me what I wanted to make this fight happen. I told them, they gave it to me. That's it.
All right, but that still makes for a happy Al, right? At least for this fight camp.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always pretty happy. I mean, when you start talking about like that kind of stuff, it gets me kind of. Yeah, I don't think I'll ever be happy with the way things went. You know what I mean?
All right, I'll tell you what. I'll let that part go. I guess I just wanted to at least give you your props for holding firm on what you wanted and getting it, even if it's just isolated for this fight. I could tell off social media that you were proud of that, and there's a lot of fighters that won't do that, and you did. So at least accept that on behalf of this fight. You know what I mean?
I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm definitely satisfied with. I'm proud of myself. You said it. I definitely. I stuck my neck out there, and I did some things that probably were against the grain, and it worked out this time for me. So now I just got to show that I'm worth it. You know what I mean? And I know I am. I think everyone around me knows that I am. Maybe some people don't, but definitely just got to go out there and just get the job done. Do what I know I can do, what I'm capable of, and show that I'm worth everything and more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you're one of the pieces. You're doing a piece. Leslie Smith's doing a piece. Every time I guess Connor's pushed up, he's doing a piece. And eventually, when enough of you do it, then maybe things will change. All right, but that's a whole other topic. Let's talk about you and Paul Felder. He told us he is preparing for an Iaquinta who's sharpened up his boxing, his jiu-jitsu. He's just training for the best possible Iaquinta. He doesn't want to get caught off guard that he may have thought you're just polishing up your hands, working on the wrestling the wrestling background that you come back for. How about you? How do you look at Paul Felder, and how do you prepare for Paul Felder?
Yeah, similar. I mean, I just really think at his age, there's not too much you're going to add. He is training with a new gym, a new camp for like the last whatever year or something, but I mean, at that point, it's really hard to, you can do a few things with the wrestling and jiu-jitsu and stuff, but I don't think he's that kind of guy where he's really like, I think he's more of like a ground and pound guy, or he works some stuff off his back, I guess, but, he's a Thai boxer with some Taekwondo, karate-esque spinning kind of stuff. He's tough as nails. He comes forward. He doesn't like to get hit because he doesn't mind getting hit, but he doesn't like getting hit because he definitely gets frustrated and annoyed pretty easily in there. I think that's something I saw in his fights that I think I can expose. He's big. He just looks like he hurts. Everything. He's big and strong and. Everything, he's kicking with power. He's throwing punches with power. I think I got a little more finesse. I think my footwork's a little better. I think my takedowns are better. Wrestling, cardio. I think he's going to be stronger. But most everyone that I fight is stronger than me. So I think I'm going out there. I'm going to try to make it look easy, but I'm prepared to go through the grind and get it done any way possible.
Al Iaquinta, our guest here on MMA Junkie Radio. He's fighting Paul Felder at UFC 223 on April 7th. What do you have for Iaquinta?
Al, when you go up and down your record, you fought some really tough guys. Paul Felder, where do you think he ranks amongst those guys? Could you say that this is your toughest challenge to date?
I'd say he's up there. He's definitely up there. I think he's got, Masvidal, him and, they're kind of the two top guys, they're similar in difficulty of opponent, I think he doesn't have as much experience as Masvidal did, but I think he's a gamer as far as, like, he's beating the guys he was supposed to beat. He looked good against the guys that he wasn't, but he didn't beat them, you know what I mean? So he's right there. He can hang in there with the toughest guys in the world. And I got to be the first person to show, to show that I'm a different level. I think he hangs in there with the top guys. I don't want him hanging in there with me.
In wrestling, they have these terms: a baby face and a heel. Basically, it gets broken down to the good guy versus the bad guy. And in this fight, Paul Felder is like one of the nicest guys ever. He does broadcasting for the UFC. Do you feel like going into this fight, it's kind of set up where he's the good guy, you're the bad guy? And do you kind of relish that role? Do you like it, being kind of the spoiler?
I guess, yeah. I mean, that's kind of how it's been. He's like the UFC's guy. Obviously, they want him probably doing good because he's doing commentary for them. And I've been pretty outspoken about them, and about some things. But I don't know if I relish it, if I like it. I guess I like it, or I'm indifferent to it. This is the first time I've ever been in that kind of situation. I'm always like, I'm a company guy, as far as like my real estate company, as far as like my high school. See, when I wrestled in high school and college, I was always a company guy. I bought into the team. I bought into I buy into my brokerage. When people treat me the right way, I treat them the right way. One hand washes the other. But the UFC's done things that I don't think they'll ever be able to like repay me or give time back. So it is what it is, and I don't like it. I don't dislike it. It's just the way it is, and I'm a fighter, so I'm going to fight, and that's basically it, you know.
Our fight analyst Dan Tom's got a couple questions. Dan, what do you have for Al?
Hey, what's up, Al? Obviously, you already touched on.
What's up, Dan?
Oh, not much, man. I mean, obviously, you already touched on a bit of your back and forth with the UFC. Now, for people that aren't aware, part of that situation had to do with your knee. Now, anybody who's had a surgery, even our host here just had a patella knee graft, knows what coming back from a surgery can kind of restructure how you think about things, especially if it's someone like you who has to use your body, to make a living. And I know since then you spent a lot of time at the New York Sports Science Lab. Are you still working down there? And can you tell me about that facility?
I am still working down there. I go down there to at least 2, sometimes 3 or 4 days a week. They have some incredible technology, some incredible pieces of equipment. They have a staff that is like no other I've ever seen before. And it all starts, Dr. Piazza, who's the owner, his wife, Susan, who's a former Olympian, is... They just understand the mindset. They understand how to physically get ready for competition. They understand that rest is as important as intense training, and how you have to, handle the both of them at the same time. And they have the best physical therapists. Any injury that I have, I get in there, they fix me right up. The doctors at the UFC said that if I had the surgery I would never be able to fight again. And they got me back, 90-second knockout, and this training camp I started out really just working around my knee. My knee, it was never as good as it was, but right now I'm back to training like I was for the fights back, in low zone and actually even more. I feel better than even back then. And Masvidal fight, I've been able to wrestle, do jiu-jitsu. I've put in a full training camp. I've evolved. I've put, the whole time I've been working on my hands, but now everything's just been taken to another level. And you're going to see it in the fight, and a lot of that a huge part of that has to do with the Sports Science Lab in Staten Island. These guys are really, I couldn't thank them enough for people that, I walked in there and they'd seen me fight, and they really had, they didn't charge me. They helped me out with the sponsorship. Anything they could do to help me, just out of the goodness of their hearts, it shows that there's some really great people out there, and the sacrifices that they've made for me is incredible.
Let's talk a little bit about HomeKnockout.com. You sold any big fat pads out there in Long Island, the Hamptons, anything?
The Hamptons that's a little far from me. I'm South Shore, Long Island. Yeah, so I've been doing pretty well. I've been selling some good houses. I've been selling some beat up houses. I've had a few deals fall through that just kind of broke my heart. And it's a lot like fighting, I have this one deal going on right now it's been in contract for a while, and I'm just trying to pull everything together last minute and hopefully get this thing to close. But there's been some, you put together a deal and it closes and it goes through smoothly, and you help out the homeowners or you help out the buyers, and they move into their new house, and it's like a win, it's like a win, like like a UFC win. You cash that check and you've helped. Everyone's happy. Everyone, they look at you like you just want to fight because you helped them with the biggest purchase of their life. But on the other hand, if a deal falls through and for whatever reason, even if it's not your fault, you take it hard and you look back and you're like, what could I have done differently? What could have been done to help make everyone happy and help get this thing closed? So it's definitely, it can be frustrating at times and it can be amazing at times. I'm really enjoying doing it, and it's something that I can do hand in hand with fighting. You can't train 24 hours a day, and it's not taxing on your body. So, I work out in the morning. In the afternoon, I'm kind of scouring properties, looking at different houses and showing houses and doing open houses and stuff. And then at night, I'm back to training. So it breaks up the day, and I'm not just sitting at home, kind of like dreading going back to the gym. I'm actually looking forward to it because I'd rather be in the gym. When I'm in a tough workout, it's like I can't look forward to relaxing, and then when I'm relaxing, it's like you kind of want to go back to the gym. So it's good. It fits in my schedule. It keeps me busy. I'm not just sitting in the kitchen trying to stay away from the refrigerator. I'm active, and it's stimulating my mind. It's just it's a good thing. It's a lifelong, something I could do for the rest of my life. So I'm happy I'm learning.
There's a lot of reality shows out there that have to do with real estate. Anything ever been pitched at you? I could see you in a role like that. Are you good at the flip or anything like that, or are you just a seller?
Yeah, we had a few things. Someone shut it down because they whatever. But that's a whole nother story.
I like stories.
But there's a few. There's a few others. A few people that are interested, and they're gonna come out and film me and Aljo doing some stuff out here.
There you go.
And we'll see. It's definitely entertaining. The people that I deal with, I met some crazy and I met some ridiculous people in the MMA, circle, and I never thought that anything would compare to that. But selling real estate, you have no choice who you're dealing with. And I've met some interesting people. I've met some ridiculous people, and it's definitely fun. I enjoy. I've made some really good friends, and I made some good connections with people. Everyone, when they find out that I'm Raging Al, they kind of give themselves a nickname. So I sold Mad Monty's house, and I moved Mad Monty into a house in West Islip. But I sold his condo, and he moved, and then he referred me to somebody. So that was good. I made we stay in touch now still, which is awesome. Punishing Paul, I'm trying to sell Punishing Paul's $1.4 million house in Huntington. It's a beautiful Vermont-style chalet house, which is pretty rare in Long Island. It's kind of it's one of a kind on Long Island, so it's going to take a unique buyer. But Punishing Paul is definitely an interesting guy, and I'm meeting cool people. It's fun.
All right. Well, hopefully in the future I can see you and Aljamain flipping houses, bickering with each other, but then shaking hands and splitting a lot of loot. I think you guys would do good as a team. But in the meantime, keep that focus on Paul Felder. It's going to be a great fight. Great to see you back in action on your home turf in Brooklyn. Well, New York, but it's another borough. I get it, but you know what I mean. Closest home as you can be there. And good luck again with the $1.4 million house. HomeKnockout.com, folks. If you want to learn more about Al on the Realty side and on Twitter, it's Al Iaquinta. And thanks for the time, Al. It was great to talk to you. And don't forget, the next time you get a salad, get the salad dressing on the side.
Dude, I made that mistake. I was so upset.
All right, brother. Take care, man. We'll see you.
Ruined my night. I appreciate it, guys. Have a good one.
All right, see you, man. That's Al Iaquinta, folks, and we'll be right back after this break.
Charm, compassion, common sense. These guys have none of that. You listen to them, so you're no better. I am awesome, though. They are Gorgeous George and Goes.
SiriusXM has a lot of great shows on a lot of great channels. Scan from 1 all the way into the 200s. You'll dig it. There's my own read. All right, now it's time for the Daily Debate, and we'll end with this. Today's Daily Debate, brought to you by the MMA Junkie Radio team. It's, with Darren Till expected to headline UFC Liverpool, which of these possible opponents would you most like to see him fight? Colby Covington, Leon Edwards, Gunnar Nelson, Stephen Thompson. Goes!
I myself am going to vote for Colby Covington. I think it's the type of matchup that he just kind of needs. He's not going to have any problems going to Liverpool. He's stated he'll fight anywhere, any place, anytime. I think it's a fun matchup for Colby. We've been having problems really giving him what he wants. He wants it. I got to imagine Till would welcome a matchup like that. So I think it makes the most sense. Stephen Thompson, for me, you showcase him in the United States.
All right. What do you think, Dan Tom?
It's tough. You know, we just came off of UFC London. Leon Edwards had a nice call out there. He's got a winning streak. Would like to see him build on that, but I don't know if that's the right spot for him to headline against Darren Till. I got to co-sign with Goes, honestly. In that spot, you need somebody who's going to relish the role of playing the bad guy. They're going into Liverpool, a possible arena and scenario that could be, like Dublin in Ireland. You're going to need a special kind of heel there, and that's Colby Covington, in my opinion.
All right. Well, 2,219 people have already voted, and so far, Covington is the more popular vote. So kind of in agreement with what you guys are saying. Leon Edwards comes, and that's 47%, sorry. Okay. Leon Edwards, 3%. He's not getting too much love.
Oh, wow.
Gunnar Nelson, 14%, but in second place is Stephen Thompson at 36%, and that's actually who I'm going to go with.
Okay.
Because I want to see two strikers strike, and Covington, I think, still needs to hold out for him and Woodley until they actually say, nope, it's RDA versus Woodley. I think Covington just needs to stand pat and possibly book himself for that fight. And in the meantime, Thompson versus Till, I like it. Can you imagine these guys breaking them two down? The Muay Thai guy against the karate guy. I think it'd just be a really, really epic fight. And so that's what I'm down with. All right, folks, there you have it. That's our daily debate for today. Thank you all when you punch in them votes and participate, man. We really, really digging it. Hopefully you are as well. That is the end of today's show. I want to thank Iaquinta for his time and Calvin Kattar. Now, they're both fighting at UFC 223, so they have fights coming up. They're in mid-camp, but they were both in great moods, and we had great interviews with them. Hopefully you all dig it. Calvin Kattar on Twitter, at Calvin Kattar. Iaquinta on Twitter, at Iaquinta. Let them know you heard them on the at MMA Junkie Radio show. Give us some love. We're going to be tweeting all that stuff out later. So we are out of here, folks. We will be back tomorrow. I believe Artem Lobov will be on the show. And still working on the rest of the week. But you get 5 days of Junkie Radio in your life. So, for Danny back east, Dan to my left, Goes on my right, I'm George. Have a nice day. Go out there. Be champions.